Salut.
Hey.
All right.
Welcome back to the Good, the Bad, and the Just Plain Standard podcast, where we provide you with our informed opinions on movies we watched together. We are your hosts,
Adam.
Anouk.
and Yann. Today is all about Christopher Nolan's The Prestige.
Starring.
Oh, shit.
Nice actor name. Oh, shit.
Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Scarlett Johansson, David Bowie, Michael Caine, Rebecca Hall, Piper Perabo, Andy Serkis, and Roger Rees.
Jingle. In a podcast dominated by English-speaking hosts, today the French are taking over. Francis goes to Hollywood. Rated R. Oh, hi Francis. Who are you and what are you doing here?
Bonjour. So my name is Francis, indeed. Francis from France, easy to remember. So what am I doing here? Well, I was invited by you. Thank you very much. And what do? I'm a magician. Magician and musician, actually. So it's actually very interesting because, you know, when I get to know people for the first time and they ask me, what do? I say, I'm a magician. And then they say, oh, that's very cool. So what instrument do you play? And then I have to say, well, no, actually, I'm a magician, but I'm also a musician. So it kind of, depending on, how they interpret my words, is, it kind of steers the conversation in one way or the other. Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
You've got it all sorted.
Exactly, yes. Everything is covered.
Nice.
Now, I did not remember this, so I had to go check how we actually first initially met Francis, but there is something quite funny going on here. I met my beloved co-host through Mark Westbrook 2 years ago, and I met you last year also through Mark Westbrook. Can you tell our beloved listeners a bit about that?
Yes, well, I've been working with Mark over the past few months, actually, because I've been working on my new show, new mentalism show, and I wanted to work with someone who really doesn't really have any sort of knowledge of, magical techniques. I wanted to have someone who really has some experience in stagecraft. And so that's how he said, well, first of all, it's really weird because right now I'm really surrounded by a lot of magicians like Paul Wilson. And then he said, there's also another French guy. I don't know if you know him. He's called Yann Sicamois. And I was like, well, it's weird because I've heard of him. Actually, I do have another friend in common who is Thomas. Yes. So it's weird because it just shows how the world is really small. We also have Ali. So actually we come from the same region, right?
Yes.
But we never met before. We only met in Glasgow. It seems like Glasgow is a place where people meet, everyone around the world is such a great place.
God, that even adds even more mystique to you, Yann, because even back when we started to get to know you, it's like, Yann's so mysterious. Like forever we tried to work out how Yann had found a course in Glasgow, and then for even more questions. And the more we know Yann, and the more we get to know him, it's like, God, you're like a magic box, Yann. It's like you just oh, by the way, I know this person. Oh, by the way, I'm like, all right, Yann.
Yeah, I've met him. It's like, oh, really?
Yeah, we had a nice drinks at the Oranmore the other day, and we talked mostly magic, but preparing for this, I actually went stalking a bit, Facebook to investigate what you're about.
All right.
No, mostly because we like to do birthday stuff. So I was just checking if it was not coming very soon or something.
Okay.
And
so should I be worried?
No.
Get up on the table.
And I didn't really plan to talk about this because when I saw this, I wanted to bring you back for a Music Month episode, but I guess you could get into it. What is Sonic Winter and Major Arcana Records?
All right. So Sonic Winter is actually a band. At the core of it is a duo between myself and another French guy who used to live in Glasgow but who's now in Paris. And so it's a virtual band in the sense that we both compose music on the side. And then we collaborate with plenty of different artists from all around the world, from Sweden to the United States to Italy. depending on who's available, depending on who we want, who we're looking for. For example, in the first album, we had a bagpipe player, but who played only on one song, and we've never met him. I don't even know what he looks like. Right now, we're going to release a new single on the 15th of February with a rapper from London. Again, I've never met him before. I just liked what he was doing, so I took some of his samples. And so, so we created stuff, and so basically we do everything online. And then we just put everything together in the studio. Normally, we at least we meet Jean-Marc and I in a studio, so in person, so that we can just decide, what we want to do. But this time we did everything online. So even the recording session or the mixing session was done online in Paris. Again, with a mixing engineer who's worked with people like Kendrick Lamar, Madonna, and different people like this. So beginner level, right?
We've worked with Madonna so many times.
But again, I've never met him. Everything was done online, and it's just amazing when you can do nowadays. I mean, you guys know, look at all the things that you can do, on the internet with, almost nothing. You can just, send emails, and you can just meet incredible people. And you don't even have to do it in person. You can just do everything online, and that's how you can really grow and do some amazing projects.
That must be some experience, especially with sound engineering, because I remember studying it at school, and especially being at that age, and the amount of arguments you would get into. It's like, no, this sounds better. No, this. Just to imagine that whole process, but online. Like, for some reason, when you were telling that story, I had pictures of so you listen to the mix, go, yeah, I like that. I changed this, send an email. Like a day later, the guy comes like, no, maybe we keep that. But no, you're right. Totally. With online, it can be instantaneous. You can talk back and forth. It's like, we can change that. We'll try this. And it's just, it's incredible.
Actually, bouncing back on what you just said, something that Jean-Marc and I realized, because at first we just wanted to do like a standard, between quotation marks, a standard band, having just people from Glasgow, because we were both in Glasgow at the time. Then he moved back to Paris. But we just had a lot of trouble finding people who, were really serious into doing, something, into doing like a serious project. And so in the end, we just thought, let's just do stuff with our friends. But our friends were like scattered all over the place. Jean-Marc had, he spent like nearly 10 years in Sweden. So he had a lot of friends in Sweden and France as well. So basically we thought, okay, so let's do something and then put it all together, and that's how it worked. But bouncing back on what you said, is just the fact that we managed to put people together who maybe if we put them in a room in person, they may not necessarily agree with one another, or they may not necessarily like each other, but just by focusing on the project itself, it just we managed to create something that we may not have been able to do, in person.
Or like leaves ego at the door, essentially. And it just becomes about the music.
Yes, because that's usually where the problem lies. At one point, that someone wants to be the leader, or someone wants to go into a certain direction. So whereas now it's just, we manage, and also we can, we also leave some freedom. So basically the core of the band is myself again and my friend. So we just say, okay, so we want to play on this song. Here are the main ideas behind, that particular song, for example. Here's what we want to convey. But now you also have the freedom to just add your own, your own expression, your own things. So like, for example, if you're a bass player, I'm a pianist myself, so I'm not a bass player. So I'm not going to tell you how to play bass. All right. So I'm just going to say, so here's the song. Here is, here's the idea. And now if you want to add some stuff on it, just feel free to do it. If we don't like it, we'll tell you in the end. But we like to give a bit of freedom to people as well, and that's something that I find is really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
We've actually discovered that ourselves, because lots of people that have like reviewed our podcast, they say it's really nice that you let people speak. Because in so many podcasts, it's like people like trying to like get their word in, and it's nice that people like. Here, it's like if you want to have your say, you can just say it, and we'll like listen and kind of go on the back foot a bit.
You just allow it to become anything you want, because in the end, that's what makes it works listening, even if it's music or spoken word like a podcast. Like, people prefer it when it's open and it can go anywhere it wants rather than being contained to one thing. Because if you don't like that one thing, you don't like the overall project. Especially, I know in music, 'cause, my friends are slowly but quite quickly now making their way up the professional ladders. And as they've got more open to writing songs together and it's going a whole way and trying different sounds, like, they sound completely different to where they were in the beginning. That's not only with growth, but it's also being able to go, let's just see where this goes with their genre. They haven't been able to haven't bracketed themselves into one style, so they've allowed it to become what it is, and it's working for them. So yeah, honestly, it's about having an open creative mindset, I think, for any sort of work in the creative industry.
Yeah.
A band with your friends. So this movie is about two friends. Angiers and Borden.
Friends.
Yes. Did you ever read the Christopher Priest novel?
This is my first viewing of this movie. I haven't read the book. I think I've seen somebody read the book once. I think somebody owned the book. I don't know if they'd read it either. I just know that they were a fan of Christopher Nolan. So, it's like, oh, I'll buy the book.
That's my connection to it. I've seen someone read it.
In fact, I didn't even know that there was a book, to be honest. So, yeah, I thought it was just a film. So
It's a sci-fi novelist.
all right, okay.
Have you read it?
No, I haven't, but
I want-
I have it.
Really?
Oh, maybe it's Yann, I know.
No, in some episodes we talked about, when your name is too complex, you change your name. You keep your name, right?
You mean
For
stage
profession-
name?
Yeah, stage name.
Well, when I play music, I keep my real name because, I'm kind of hidden behind the band, which is called Sonic Winter, by the way. So, but when I'm a stage performer, now I use a different name, which is Maximiliano, and I explain it in my show why it is. But actually, the real reason why I use a stage name is because I've realized that a lot of people have got some trouble pronouncing my name correctly. And there is nothing worse than just being in the wings, and the MC is just introducing the act and is like, and now prepare yourself for an incredible magician or whatever they say. So
The one and only.
the one and only, and and they
It's the wrong name.
it's the wrong name. So you're just like it's like the wrong. The wrong energy right from the start. And then I did something in France about 2 years ago. It was the first time I was performing in France. I've been here for nearly 10 years. And so my main experience is, performing in English. And so the first time I was doing something in France, I was like, okay, so right now, at least for the first time in my entire career, I will finally, the MC will finally pronounce my name correctly because it's a French name, right? Yeah. So he will know how to pronounce it correctly. And on that night, there were two MCs. It was in Paris. Two MCs. First of all, so my name is Francis Girola, okay, which in English you could say Girola, but I know that in English you could you pronounce it G, so it's Girola, right? But now some people say Ginola, like the football player, right? So on that night, first of all, they said Francis Ginola, then François Girola, again, different name. And now the climax on that night was when I went back home and I looked on Facebook and, they put a status, on Facebook saying, oh, what an incredible night tonight with so many amazing acts. And then they give the list and then my name was Francis Granola.
Oh,
Yes,
I kid you not. And that's when I was like, I think I'm going to have a stage name.
Madi, we recorded, so we are in the middle of Magic Month. We recorded Madi and Paul a while back because they were in the Our Magic documentary. Paul made it, and Madi also, he changed now his Madi the Magician because his real name is Madi Gilbert and everyone gets Gilbert and he hates that.
Right.
So Madi the Magician, yeah.
Yes, I guess you just need to. The good thing is that Maximiliano is kind of my name well, I'm not going to explain exactly why I choose this name.
I mean,
if you want to know,
if you tricks, yeah.
no, actually, if you want to know, you need to come and see my show, which
Sure.
yes, because it's explained. I explain it why.
That's
But,
how to market your
Yeah, there it is.
Yes,
Right
exactly. Subliminal suggestion. I'm a mentalist, so everything is subliminal, right?
This isn't misdirection. This is clearly direction.
Yes, and but actually, at first I was kind of worried because I thought Maximiliano, well, it's a bit long, and if people had trouble pronouncing my name, Francis Girola, I was like Maximiliano. People are going to be confused. Like, is there one L, two L's? There's an X. It sounds like a super complicated word, like in Scrabble. And but actually, I think that because it's kind of complicated, or it sounds a bit complicated, then people pay more attention. Whereas if you're called like John Smith or something, then people might just forget it. Say, oh, what's his name again? Whereas Maximiliano is just, okay, now we need to pay attention. So people remember.
My favorite story with forgetting people's names in like key moments is in the vein of podcasting, like one of the OGs of podcasting, Ricky Gervais, when they won the Golden Globe for The Office. They were so far away from the stage, the camera couldn't find them to begin with. And since nobody in Hollywood had heard of them, it was Ricky Gervais, being French-Canadian, they're like, right, so it's Gervais. But he was also writing with a British guy called Stephen Merchant. So the announcer went, please welcome to the stage, Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant.
the other way around.
It's like, he must be French-Canadian too.
Yeah, he was in Logan, Stephen Merchant.
Was he really?
Yeah, it was the albino, like without. Very nice. It was both in extras, so that was cool.
Yeah, they both wrote that as well. Yeah.
So I was coming to pen names because Christopher Priest, who wrote this, was also using John Luther Novak and Colin Wedgelock.
All right.
I like Colin Wedgelock.
I get it, like Stephen King used
Richard
Bachman.
Right,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, let's get into the movie then. So, how did you? Well, I know Adam haven't watched it ever before, so he heard it because I plan to have that in a podcast episode. But Francis, what's your experience with The Prestige?
Well, I rewatched it today, knowing that we'd do this podcast, because it had been a long time since I'd watched it, like probably 3 years ago or something like this. And something that, well, first of all, I mean, it touched me on many levels, especially being a magician. And so I think that I really liked the way that it respected the art. Very often when you watch a movie on magicians, often magicians end up being like a kind of caricature of actual magicians, whereas I thought there was a profound respect and for the art in itself, but also something that I didn't know that I would say upon rewatching the film is the fact that I don't really know how much we can actually say about the film, like how much we can spoil the film.
We can go full. Yeah, we have the rule like 2 weeks.
All right.
3 weeks after release, except for Star Wars, we put an unlimited spoiler thing, but pretty much.
Okay.
Well, actually, I was wondering, when I watched it 2 days ago, because there are some intense spoilers, so I don't know. There are some special ones.
I don't think you could fully discuss this film without spoiling aspects of it. So I think it's good. We'll just do it now. If you haven't seen this, go and watch it, then come back.
Yeah.
Because you won't. It's not like one of these films you go, oh, I can deal with a spoiler and then I can watch it. No, this one is fundamental to the whole watching experience.
But so that being said, suffice it to say that there is a plot twist in the end that kind of explains everything. And I thought that it would be this kind of film, a bit like The Sixth Sense, that as soon as you know the end, even if it's great, you may not want to rewatch it again, But actually, when I watched it again today, I discovered that it's really fun because there are things on many levels. I mean, all of a sudden you just, because you know what's happening, you start looking at the story in a different perspective, and that's when you start to realize that it's not just one-dimensional. That there are several dimensions that you can explore, and I find it really, really interesting.
Yeah, I actually have the same experience as you. I watched it about 5-6 years ago, and also this was before I'd kind of become a professional actor, as they call it. So yeah, like I was watching it in a very different way than 6 years ago, and even though I knew the twist, it was also quite fun watching it with Adam because he didn't. So I kept on going, do you know the twist yet? Do you know the twist yet? Do you know the twist? And he's like, no.
That's mean. Oh, that's mean. Oh.
Well, I figured out, because I mean, if you watch enough films, you like figure out, like, right, I know that this said person is not dead. I'm like, I know enough about filmmaking to know that this is one thing, but everything else in the film, no, I didn't see that coming, actually. Which I'm quite happy with. I love it when a film actually fools you instead of like just goes like the standard sort of twist, you know, like, oh, I fooled you. I'm like, did you really though? Did you?
You want to be fooled.
Yes, Michael Caine's moment.
Yeah. Did you ever hear? Well, I know Francis have obviously about the bullet catch, death toll before.
There was an episode of QI where they talked a lot about the bullet catch. There was a whole episode on magic, which was really interesting about the aspect of like having the doppelganger and the. And there was another one about when the stage burnt down, but I can't remember the exact story. But it's a very good episode. It's available most places. That one, it's well worth a watch if you've got any interest in magic, because it doesn't spoil anything, but it just talks about more historical performances, really. But no, I don't know the death toll.
Well, that was a book I never managed to actually acquire, called 12 Have Died: Bullet Catching, The Story and Secrets.
Wow, 12.
Yes. And there is a mental, I won't read the whole thing because there's no point really. It's on the internet, Mental Floss article, which, wait. There's a big background noise, just like, yeah,
That's closer now.
wow, what the?
It would be music if it was coming like here. No, it's just gone past the window there. That's an ambulance as well, because
Yeah, it's the exact same noise in New York. Like, we don't have those in France. Yeah.
I always thought they were universal noises, but they're not.
They're not.
Totally not.
Like
No.
the police sound different in France, don't they?
Well, they speak French.
You're hilarious.
Sorry, that had to be done.
Beware. Yeah, so there's an article on Mental Floss, which gives 6 stories on those. So I'll just give 2 of those. So Madame Dolinsky died in 1820. The wife assistant of a Polish magician had a routine where she faced a firing squad of 6 soldiers.
Oh, wow.
My word.
Is he lost?
And that's another. It's a
I
fire.
think that's another one.
It's
yeah.
a fire engine.
Yeah. Must be important.
There must be something going on.
Yeah.
We'll just
Might
go
be at the
outside.
school, actually.
Yeah, we'll just come out outside, and then it's like everyone's panicking. It's like, God, we just recorded an episode. And then
the
all
apocalypse.
this stuff was going down. Yeah.
So it's a Mental Floss article giving you 6 examples. I'll just read 2 because one is very relevant to that movie. So Madame Dolinsky, who died in 1820, she was the wife assistant of a Polish magician who had a routine where she faced a firing squad of 6 soldiers. So back in the early 19th century, rifles were loaded by biting open a cartridge, pouring the gunpowder in the barrel, then jamming the rest of the cartridge down the barrel, just like in the movie, basically. And in the Dolinsky version, the soldiers were shills, paid and secretly instructed to bite away the whole bullet and load in a blank. But in a fatal performance in Germany before a royal court, one of the riflemen apparently got nervous being on stage and reverted to his usual way of loading the gun. When the bullet hit Madame Dolinsky in the abdomen, several audience members fainted. The madame died 2 years later. Adding to the tragedy, she was pregnant and lost her unborn child, and her husband was eventually driven mad from the shock of the accident.
Oh God.
Wow.
Yes.
Do you mean 2 days? 2 years?
Did you say 2 years or 2 days?
2 days? 2 days.
2 days. I was going to say
Right.
that she got shot, she got better, then died 2 years later of unrelated causes.
That's
2 days though. That's horrible.
That's grim.
that's French sight reading. We exaggerate.
2 years.
Or something.
And the other one, well, there is obviously, but it was not a trick, a bullet catch. The Brandon Lee, the son
yeah.
of Bruce Lee,
The
who
Crow.
died. Yeah, for the Crow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who died like this. But this one, Ching Ling Su, who in the movie is, the old, he pretends to be Asian, but that guy in real life, so his real name was William Ellsworth Campbell Robinson, but the name lacked kind of the requisite hocus pocus. So when this American took the stage, he performed under such names as Ahmed Ben Ali and Anand Sahib. But inspired by the famous Chinese conjurer Ching Ling Fu, Robinson finally chose a variation for his own professional alias. In his most notorious illusion, condemned to death by the boxers, 2 assistants fire guns at him and it catches both bullets. Each gun had 2 barrels, one with a real bullet, the other with a blank. On the fateful night, a buildup of gunpowder accidentally sent one of the real bullets straight into Chung's chest. He said, "Oh my God, something happened. Lower the curtain." He died the next day. At first, foul play was suspected, as there had been a feud between Chung and Ching, the magician from whom he stole his name, but after Chung's widow explained the mechanics of the trick at an inquiry, the death was ruled accidental.
That's awful.
And the interesting thing is that it's only on that night that because he said, something went wrong, that people suddenly realized that he wasn't Chinese, right? So that's
Spoke English.
yeah. So
There was a British guy called Tommy Cooper who famously had a heart attack on TV while recording, and obviously his stint was that he was a terrible magician. That was the whole aspect of his performance, like it would be terrible, and everyone just thought, oh, it's part of the act because it's going wrong, and even more so because usually with magicians you think, oh, this is part of the act, but when it's part of a bad magician, and magician whose act is him being a bad magician going wrong, even more people are like, oh, this is absolutely a joke. But no,
But he was dying.
he died.
Oh God, that's horrific.
So in this movie, you also have, Anouk, you talked about that before we started recording, real magicians. Ricky Jay is in this.
yes, actually, it was one of the cameos that I really liked in this film. So there was him, Ricky Jay, and second, David Bowie, who I'd completely forgotten was in the movie, and I just loved it when I saw him. And apparently, I read that Christopher Nolan kind of begged him to be part of the film. Like he absolutely wanted him to play the role of Nikola Tesla, and so yeah.
Yeah, Nick, you just said before we started that it was good casting.
It was
David
good
Bowie.
casting.
Yeah.
I really liked it. Even though the accent kind of annoyed me, but
The accent.
yeah, his accent kind of, I don't know if it was consistent, but then to be fair, I kind of thought Scarlett Johansson's accent was even worse. So she kind of, yeah, it balanced out.
Do you think it adds more to his performance now that obviously David Bowie is no longer with us? Because I was sitting there watching going, yeah, I'm really enjoying this. And then I remember like, oh, he's gone. And I was trying to think, does that add more to the fact, to his performance?
Well, I would be quite, I distinctly, well, I really remember him in Dune.
Okay.
So yeah, I wonder how I will see him today now. See, I don't think there would be any difference, but like, except that he was younger. I don't know. Did you note? Well, did you? You know, there is kind of a parallel I never noticed before. The feud parallel between. So you had Angiers and obviously Bolden and the Edison Tesla, which.
Yeah.
which if you're not just like the Christopher Columbus, people think he discovered America, but because his biographer was better than Amerigo Vespucci. But I mean, like Tesla is less known than Edison these days.
Yeah, because it was the fact that Edison patented electricity. If it was Tesla would have made it free, because it was the fundamentals of ideas as well. I think that's one of the major things. But yeah, I mean, everyone thinks of Thomas Edison with the kite with the key and the electricity. With the light, because that's, I think, one of the first experiments he does is that he ties a key to a kite, so obviously the lightning bolt will come down because you've got the key which is metal to attract to be like essentially a pole.
Isn't that Benjamin Franklin?
No, that is Ben Franklin. I'm completely wrong. That is Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
Sorry, completely wrong.
Anyway.
Completely different time as well. Jeez, Adam, come on.
Anyway, no, but
not a bad man. Ben Franklin was all right.
No, it's like those feuds in history. At the Fringe last year, I've watched Bone Wars. I don't know if you've ever heard about this one. Michael Crichton wrote a fiction, a novel, a book, which was released after his death on this, because a while back you had two guys who, like paleontologists, so they had a huge feud to actually be the first to discover dinosaur bones and everything. There was the destruction of bones and everything. It was kind of a huge drama and interesting stuff. So yeah, real historical feuds are always interesting, I think, to read. And wow.
Try to think of other massive feuds throughout history. That would be huge. It's like on the same sort of level.
Paul brothers?
Don't bring that into it.
No, history.
Yeah, history. That's present day, unfortunately.
People that we admire, maybe.
What else? Who else was that? I mean, yeah, that's a total thing now. It's all like YouTube drama. It's like compared to like say Tesla and Edison. You just like
with electricity.
Come on. I don't see it. Thomas Edison dropping a diss track on Nikola Tesla sort of level. That's Well, although there is one. I mean, there's the epic rap battle of history between Edison and Tesla, which is pretty good. I'm a fan of that episode.
Yeah, diss tracks not maybe, but they had like headlines and newspapers at the time, so that happened a lot.
That's true. Yeah.
In the Bone Wars, yeah, that happened. Like
for fun.
Yeah. I also, when I saw again the whole teleportation thingy, it reminded me of our best friend Jeff Goldblum in The Fly. That's what they originally tried to do, transport from one booth to another. Well, it turned bad, but...
Oh, because yes, actually, I was thinking that there's a film connected to this, and thank you for that.
And then the earlier version of The Fly, which is not as good, not as good, but just a different idea, because instead of like becoming a fly, the original 50s like B-ish movie is that it's a fly's head on a human's body and then a human head on a fly's body. Like they swap actual bodies, so it's even more weird.
What's the director?
Well, the first one or the other one?
The first one.
I don't know the first one. I know the second one's a Cronenberg film.
Yeah.
Cronenberg.
Cronenberg is the 80s redo of it. Well, I mean, that was the thing. You look at like The Blob and The Thing, they were all redone as well, like John Carpenter. So that was the whole renaissance of them doing again, compared to like the original classics like Creature from the Black Lagoon and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We talked in, I think it's in Trains T2, the double realization in the toilets. There is a kind of a double realization with the notebooks here that I really enjoyed. Like kind of a thing inside the thing inside the thing. I said multiple times here that I didn't like Dunkirk because I didn't catch the concept early on, when they say over 1 week, an hour. So I didn't get that. So I didn't like it at all. So watching back, I actually enjoy that.
Yeah, and it left out the whole French struggle as well. That's another part of Dunkirk that isn't there yet.
There's the history banter coming back.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Not Britain's finest moment there.
Oh dear. Yes.
But yeah. Well,
I think if this film kind of had like a reboot, the new wave feminists would get really mad at this film
Oh, with the assistant, sort of, the only real female roles are the wife and the...
No, not at all. I think that actually they had quite good roles as women, but I think just the thought that he kind of pretty much used them as like poor Sarah, she would say, "Oh, you love me today," and then tomorrow you don't, but it was like a different guy. Like, that's so fucked up.
Yeah, that is.
But I
Sorry,
think,
you're too close, Anouk.
Oh,
Yeah, that's to go back to that's so fucked up.
that's so fucked up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah.
That's like a real version of the Houdini. A non-sexual Houdini. That it's a different guy. Hey.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
it's just two lovers.
Yeah, it's really fucked up.
Yeah.
But I think mostly just because it wasn't really talked about. Like, that wasn't the issue. But
But I think it's a very realistic depiction of magic and the art, which is a very male-driven kind of art.
Yeah. No.
Like, for example, there's going to be the Blackpool Magic Convention very soon, which is the biggest convention in the world. Like nearly 4,000 magicians from all around the world convening in Blackpool, of all places. And if you ever go there, I mean, it's really an experience on its own. And you will see that 90% of magicians are male. I don't really know why. What do you think, Yann?
I don't know if it probably boils down to what Anouk frequently says. No, maybe they're not females not being pushed. You can also do it, or I don't know if it's a lack of interest on their part, or I don't think it's a sexist thingy, because you have some. I know quite a few female magicians, but yeah, Blackpool. Indeed, staying at the bar at the Ruskin at 3 a.m. in the morning, sharing with the 12-year-olds, 85-year-olds. Yeah, there are not that many females. Indeed, I'm not sure why.
I think it's it goes to magicians that obviously for I don't know you guys personally what your inspirations to become magicians were, but the fact that it's where you find it gets introduced to you. I think even nowadays that's even more limited, because you don't. And I don't know anyone of my friends that ever like watched or was interested in magic. So I think even it's like a lower tier, because even fewer people are introduced to magic at a young age and choose to pursue it. To then, of that low percentage, it's going, even if it was like 50-50. I mean, if there's only 4 people introduced to magic, let's say of a group of 20, and it's even a smaller number.
Yeah.
So I think that the issue there isn't. It's just it isn't females being introduced to it. I think it's a case of like nobody is really being introduced to it. Like, it's one of these things you'd have to go and actively search for. But then the people that do are completely interested and love it. As clear, because I've seen some of Yann's footage from Blackpool, and I've never seen even Comic-Con conventions like that doesn't even compare to like the level of like passion and like care for these people that are there.
Yeah,
You
but
kind of have to love it, don't you? Like, it's kind of like acting, like getting into it for money or fame is like, it probably won't work for you, because there's so much slog and so much hard work and stuff like behind the scenes you have to do. I'm sure it's the same with magic. Like, there's so much like sleight of hand, or the way that you perform, your persona. Like, I'm sure that there are other things. I'm not a magician, but that you have to learn like probably on your own. Like, I can imagine it can be quite like I know acting can get quite lonely, because it's like you're on your own on stage quite a lot of the time.
And it was in our magic. It used to be the case of you would go to the magic shops and you would learn all the tricks from the people there, and then that's kind of fading out now. It's all becoming online, so there's even less of handing it down generation to generation as well, which is probably another considerable factor too.
But I think also because you were asking, what might have inspired us to be into magic, and well, as far as I'm concerned, but also since I've met a lot of other magicians, and I really realized that a lot of us come from the same background. For example, even though I started pretty late compared to other magicians who might have started as a child, but I think that very often the same. We all have the same background in the sense that we are. It's mostly male, so guys who are like very shy, kind of a bit socially inept maybe, and magic is a way to all of a sudden to shine, amongst a crowd, as you can
Ladies?
use. Yes, exactly. So I think that's probably why you have less female magicians, in the world, because originally it's a really male-driven kind of thing, in the sense that it's something that is kind of boosts your ego to to get out there and try to impress people. And so now I think that it's starting to change. It's there are some acts that are that could have happened a few years ago, but nowadays it's kind of especially with all the things that are happening right now with women and stuff. So you can see that the mindset is finally changing, and you can see a few more female magicians kind of appearing. And but I think also, as you were touching upon, I think it also goes to. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling on. Sorry.
It's fine.
No worries.
Yeah, so I think that what you were saying earlier on, the medium also has changed. Now everything is online, so it's not necessarily secret. There is also a new community that is starting to take shape, and so I think that we're starting to embrace new ideas, and so that's why you have a new generation that is coming, and so I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Starting. So, what was the initial spark that made you? I want to do this with my life.
For me, so I started magic probably in 2011 or 2010 or 2011. I've been here since 2009. Originally I wanted to be an English teacher in France. And then I was given the opportunity to come here as a language assistant, so obviously teaching French in primary and secondary schools. So that was back in the days when I still wanted to have a proper job. And being a language assistant means that you have a lot of free time, okay? A language assistant is not like an actual teacher. You only have like 12 hours of a week of classes. And so the rest of the time, you either go to the pub with your friends, and then you have a lot of free time where you can just go to the cinema or do some other stuff. And at one point, I can't remember why, I just thought it would be a good idea to start learning a few tricks. I started with origami for some reason. I thought I would like to learn a few origamis, and then I thought I would like to learn a bit of magic. In fact, I remember that one of the reasons why was because I wanted to introduce it in my class, kind of like an icebreaker, like, for example, if I'm teaching colors, I could do with kids, I could do something with Smarties and do a trick that would involve colors. And then that's how it started. Just as, doing some silly tricks. You go to a house and there is a deck of cards. And when there is a party, there is always people who say, let's play a game with cards. But there is always one person who doesn't know the game that you're talking about. So you need to spend ages to try and explain the game, and obviously it's not fun. So I thought, it would be better to just say, okay, you know what, pick a card, any card, and I just find it. And that's how it started. Then it became a passion. And actually, the real spark. Because I'm actually a YouTube magician now. I'm this generation of, and I know that some of my colleagues might be like, ooh, as soon as you start talking about YouTube magic, it's kind of like a taboo in one way, because now nothing is secret anymore. I mean, you can find almost everything on the internet, and so I started my very first tricks. I learned them on YouTube. And then the first video that really struck me was Darren Brown. I never seen anything like this before, and to me that was real magic. Because up until now, I was learning a few card tricks and stuff, and was like, that's pretty good, but it's still an illusion. But then I saw Darren Brown do what he does, and I was like, this is real. I mean, this guy is really reading minds, and he's really hypnotizing people, or he can do all this amazing stuff. And then I started to learn all those things, and I realized that I realized some stuff, and I was like, it really became a passion. Yeah. So my spark was Darren Brown. So what about you then?
Well, I'll get that in a second. But you had a spark, and now you're actually a professional. You get booked for gigs, right?
Yes, part-time. So I've got the music business. So I've got the band. I've also got my record label, which is called Major Arcana Records, because I still wanted to keep some sort of mystique, even in my music business. But yes, I'm also a professional magician. So doing gigs either in close-up or stand-up settings like cabarets. I also have my show, stage show. Yes.
Okay. As for myself, well, it's not very radiophonic, but the book that was there on the table for everyone to see. Hey. So the father of modern magic, I talked about a few times on the podcast, Robert Houdin. He wrote his memoir, Confidence d'un prestidigitateur, a while back. I read that, and I was just like fascinated. It was kind of the superhero before superheroes were a thing. So I really felt for the whole story, the adventures and everything. And I went to Mayette Magie Moderne right away.
All right, okay.
To get my first deck of cards. And because I was kind of very hungry in terms of secrets at the time. So I was buying everything.
Right.
I could. And now I'm more settled. I still don't perform, even though I've been doing some stage. So I could, technically, now that I'm more versed into the stagecraft and everything. But I actually pinpointed 2 weeks ago why I never perform magic, because there is the thing, when you're a magician in the family, you always get, but if you're not like into the performing aspect, it can be a bit of an annoyance, kind of. I at one point I did a show in 2006, right before I left for Tahiti. So they would stop saying, "Well, you're just pretending and stuff." So I did something, but I pinpointed why I'm not performing at all, because I've seen so many. I love the storytelling aspect, like Eugene Berger's like. I love Eugene Berger and the whole aspect of bizarre and everything. And as I won't say I don't have the time, because I don't say that anymore at all. I never take the time to actually write down and make sure there is a story structured with twist and something quite great to do magic within. As I've never done that, I know that if I were to do something right now, it wouldn't be to the standard that I am establishing to myself. So I'm focusing more on reading history books and collecting cards and collecting expensive history books, and going to see shows and conventions, watching the videos that are now available on our YouTube channel for the podcast. 5 videos of how it looks like when you're going to Blackpool. I've seen you in there, so actually.
Yes, I saw that too. You've got a good eye, because I was amongst a lot of people, and you were like, "Oh, that's you."
We met before we met, whatever. So if you want to, because the ambiance, the Blackpool is really, really. I talked about Magicon, and Magicon is how I met Madi. And that's the T-shirt I'm wearing right now. This Magicon is the kind of TED Talks, or it's like focused discussions on specific topics from people involved in magic, but on their own time. Like it was a marketing guy, a guy working at Apple and stuff. And no, Blackpool is different. Blackpool is kind of, imagine a sci-fi convention, but for magicians, kind of. So it's I've not been there for a few years, but I really enjoy those after gala and after lectures times.
Yes, that's the best part, isn't it? Yeah, I'm looking forward to this year's convention. Yeah, but it's very interesting that you said you're not into the performing aspect of magic because you're an actor yourself. So it's not as if you didn't like performing. I mean, you're into performing. You're a performer, but you're not a performer as a magician. And in fact, because you mentioned Robert Houdin, who has this famous quote, right? So that you must know, obviously.
We gave it in a previous episode. Yes, you can treat us with it.
Right. So which is that you said that a magician is an actor playing the role of a magician. So what do you think of that then, as an actor yourself?
Well, the thing is that my passion for magic came approximately at the same year as my passion for acting, 96, with Hamlet. So that's the same year as I discovered. I don't know, because it requires so many skill that you have to forget when you're on stage. It's just like acting, really, but it adds a layer, because acting, we've been trained like 2 years ago in acting with Mark Westbrook, right? And there are so many different things that you have to think about beforehand. And if you're in the middle of your training, you're still thinking about those things while you're doing the thing. So adding a layer of, well, I don't take the time to rehearse the tricks and the techniques. So I know that if I were to perform, it would be crap. I mean, if I were to perform things involving like back and front or weird, like, like specific manipulation, it wouldn't be to the standard that I have set for myself, which is excellence.
You're totally doing some tricks on episode 100, by the way. Just throwing that out there now.
I think you're setting the bar too high. That's probably why you just
But, apply what we learned at acting school. You start off with unconscious. Was it unconscious, unconfident?
Incompetence.
Incompetence, right? And then you work your way up.
Yeah. But I also love the concept of hidden skills. So sometimes I do stuff, but people don't see me coming.
You love the magic. That's the magic itself. Yeah,
I do that.
Showmanship.
Sometimes. Yes, I do that sometimes. I just don't advertise. Oh, I'm a magician. Let me show you it.
That's actually pretty cool, yeah. But something, because you mentioned Mark Westbrook, and so I mean I'm a magician at first, right? But I studied a little bit of acting, through Mark, and so for me it was actually very interesting to do the other way around of what you did, which is start with magic and then study a little bit of acting. And something that really hit home with Mark's classes is when. I mean, to me, at first, I thought that acting was about, being someone else, being another character. And obviously in magic, there's a bit of acting as well. But you also need to still be yourself. It can't be, someone else, because if you suddenly start to play, a different character, it just feels kind of weird, because magic is such it's an interactive medium. So if suddenly I started to play, to be someone else, it would seem kind of off. And something that really I found really interesting with Mark is when I studied the fact that even when you're acting, you're not playing someone else. You're just playing a different part of you. And I really like this sort of connection that you can do between magic and acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's thanks to this approach to acting that, just like Mark, we're not really fans of the method.
Right.
And that's also why Jim and Andy documentary was just so annoying to me. Don't know if you've seen that one on Netflix. When no. Jim Carrey played Andy Kaufman in Moon.
Oh yes, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just being an asshole to the whole crew, and because he became the whatever.
Yeah, but the film was great though. So it's
the
one
film
of those
maybe.
Things that
Yeah. But the documentary was a bit annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, his thought process is a bit weird, and I think quite a lot of. But I also you don't know how much is true, because it makes such a great story. You don't know if it actually happens. Like Jared Leto actually sending used condoms to his the other actors because he was trying to get into the Joker mindset, which is absolute bullshit.
Or if it's just publicity put out there to like bring up hype for the film, get people talking about it. Like there's a whole,
exactly.
It's a whole cataclysm of things. You honestly, unless you're on the project, you'll never know.
It's true that that's what Patrick used to say. Like they say that because it's like a glamour and romance or shocking, but it's not really how it really happens in the moment. Yeah, that's right.
Who knows? But yeah, I kind of agree with that whole thing of. I remember. I think Paul Wilson was talking about how you have a persona on stage, and it's the same as an actor. But then, of course, you have to it has to have a bit of vulnerability, because if you're interacting with the audience, for example, and they do something that you haven't seen coming, and then you freak out and you panic, then that's your whole show just gone. And it's the same with acting. If someone drops their line, you have to be there to like pick it up again, because then otherwise the whole scene is completely gone. And then the audience, the fourth wall kind of breaks, and then the audience is just like, oh shit, this is just a show. Like the whole illusion is gone. So you have to be vulnerable. And that's why acting isn't just acting. It's like you have to put yourself on stage. It's like
reacting. Yeah. Also.
Yeah, acting, reacting, exactly.
But yeah, it happened to me twice. In a Troika 2 years ago, at one point I lost my line, but with Caroline we just powered through and it went fine. Or during the death of an anarchist, I hurt my shoulder when I was doing like kind of a tiny somersault that I didn't rehearse or anything. I just added that on in the actual rehearsals.
Yeah, so, like in me and PJ scene. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No, it's fine.
In me and PJ scene, each night he kept cutting me off halfway through because he forgot that I had 2 more lines. And I remember I kept on leaving stage and thinking, oh, I really want to get my line in, but he keeps on cutting me off and it's not his fault. And so there was one night where I was just like, okay, you have to react to what's actually happening to you on stage. Like, be Emily. And then on stage, he like cut me off and I was like, ah! And then I like went back with my line and he looked so shocked. He was just like, oh, okay. And I was like, I have 2 more lines.
I think
and I was like, now you can go.
It totally worked. It wasn't just an actor going, I'm not finished. It was, I think you said something along the, because I remember it's like, I'm still talking. Like a whole moment of like, don't cut me off, like sort of thing. But it worked. It totally works. It's like a husband interrupting a wife. Yeah, it totally worked.
So yeah. And then it makes it more fresh, and then you're like really the adrenaline and
Yeah.
Because there are loads of those moments that feel sometimes I've seen some plays, well, it's parallelly related, but they feel like it's an error, but it was purposefully rehearsed exactly like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like the show that's going on in London.
Play where everything goes wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like they make mistakes the whole way through, and it's really funny because it's like it breaks the fourth wall in a way, but it's completely rehearsed.
Oh yeah.
But to make a rehearsal not look rehearsed is like it's tough.
There's one that seems rather fun that was at the Fringe for a long time, and I've just seen it appear on a spotlight recently. Shit-faced Shakespeare, the casting now.
Oh yeah.
I'd love to do that.
I didn't know exactly what it was, but in the casting breakdown, it says it's funny. So you've got there's just one actor in the middle that is completely drunk, and you have to go on with the play you're doing.
Oh, is that how it works? Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't sure. I thought it was just everyone just completely drunk, but then how could it really work?
You just like start smoking on stage or something. You'd just be like,
I think it would be
your play.
I can't imagine doing a magic show completely drunk. I think it would be kind of, very avant-garde.
Where have I put my cards? Oh wait, that's the trick. That's what I'm meant to be doing.
Oh, dude, isn't that the movie? Is that the Entertainer? The movie with Paul Newman and the billiard thingy? He's pretending to be drunk and he still wins all the billiard thing.
Well, it's a standard trick. Like that pretending to be drunk and or the famous one is like, oh, I bet he can't beat my friend in an arm wrestle. He's got like a weedy arm, and then he's like, right, and then he rolls up the other arm and it's massive. Or it's like actually when I was pointing to my friend, it was the guy right behind him.
It's like
Yeah, you've
Like-
got
Correction.
Yeah.
Drunken Master.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan. Yeah.
it's also there's the shot glass one or the pint glass one where you say, I bet I can take this shot at the same time as you have these 2 pints. Oh, no, the other way around. And then they're like, well, yeah, like, of course, you have to drink 2 pints and I just have to shot something.
Right.
And then you put the pint, then as soon as you finish the pint glass, you put the pint glass over the other shot. So they're like, and you can't touch each other's glasses. I've explained that terribly. You know what I mean?
It's in the Real Hustle.
Yeah,
It's a pole link. Yeah,
Sorry, I'm really loud.
I'm trying to remember the.
Proposition bet in the real
Yeah, it's a
household.
proposition bit, but I'm trying to remember how that one actually works because it couldn't be at the same time.
No, that's what you said.
Is it exactly? Is it the same time?
That's what Anouk said. Yeah.
It's exactly the same time, but you can't touch the other person's glasses. That's what I forgot to say.
I think it's 5 shots.
Yeah,
I think it has to be 5 shots because if it was 2, you just go 1, 2. It has to be something like more than 2.
And then the last shot, after
as soon
you've
as
just done 1 pint, you just put it down on their last shot, and then like, but you can't touch my glass, and then you win whatever, like £20 or
a round of beers for my mates and I.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
I was a bit I wasn't able to follow, even though I was very, very focused onto who was in love with who, with Borden, Olivia, Sarah, and you know the twins. So it's obviously a thing about twins, right? And it's so funny that they are so nice foreshadowing all the way through before. I was completely confused at one point. Which brother was in love with which? Was it Scarlett Johansson or the other original wife?
Yeah. I think Fallon was in love with Olivia, I think. But maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter.
Maybe I'm not
because they switched.
I don't think it does, but
right? I mean, they were always playing. They were always switching roles anyway.
Yes, but I mean, in the end, who was really in love? Because the one was really annoying to the wife because he was in love with the other one. So there was really a kind of it's not a triangle, a quadruple, something weird that was happening. So
Yeah, and it's kind of awful because the guy that was in love with Olivia obviously was hung because the guy that shoots. What's his name? Algiers.
Angiers.
Said I was in love with Sarah to Hugh Jackman after he shot him. So we know that the person that was in love with Sarah is alive.
Did the wife know? Do we know that for a fact? Because she definitely says things along the lines of like, especially when they have the dinner scene, she's like, "Take off the moustache. I wish you get rid of that." Like, I thought that was a definite hint. Like, okay, she knows. But maybe the assistant didn't know. I don't know. Again, this is total debate. Cause it's not. That's a big thing with Nolan films that he never gives you direct answers, which some people love, some people hate. But it gets you thinking.
Yeah, I think it's great because that means that whenever you watch it again, you just have to it's a different interpretation.
Yeah.
And yes, there were different scenes. Like for example, there was a big argument when I think they were at home. And the kid was in the hallway.
Yeah.
And I remember so was it Olivia? Or I can't remember her name.
Olivia, the assistant.
Okay, so that's Sarah.
Sarah. Yeah.
So Sarah was saying something along the lines of, "I know what you are," or something like this. And so, you don't really know how to interpret it. Does it mean that she knew exactly what was going on, or was she referring to something else? So there's some sort of dual reality in one way, and so I quite liked it. Yeah.
Like, you love me. Like the first time I watched it, when she says things like, "You love me today," and but that's why it hurts so much more when you don't love me all the time, type thing. Yeah. Like that could also be like, does she actually know that you're a different person tomorrow, or is it like figuratively, mentally?
Yeah.
I actually identified a few foreshadowing bits. With the kid and the dead bird. Where is his brother? And as you just touched, how the wife notices how Borden is different from time to time. The fingers, who are still swollen after it's been cut for so long.
Yeah.
I believe it's still like something like it's still bleeding.
Yeah.
Like,
And Cutter basically, so that's Michael Caine, right? Gives him the method, but he dismisses it. Like Angiers, like he says, he's using double, which is what he's doing, but the other won't. Like, so he's basically revealing Nolan there, the actual thingy. And also Ching-Lung Su, when they realized that he had to make his whole life a lie. That's also kind of a parallel, probably foreshadowing thing.
yeah,
so
because Christian Bale loved that. He was like, his character was like, yeah, that's real magic, you know. That's what you should do. It should be your life. Like everything should be part of the trick.
It's a obviously, because we talked about Alien, which was retconned in the legendary category not so long ago, and there is the Ash character that you really notice and start looking more closely after you've watched it the first time.
Yeah.
I watched this Prestige. I was watching Fallon very closely to see if he was like playing the end state, or if it was and it's just, you recognize a bit. It's also Christian Bale, but not that much if you're not focused on it, because it's the camera is not focused on him. It's just
Yeah, and he does hide himself a lot. Like he's always like, oh, I've got to go, and he doesn't speak and all this kind of stuff. So, but there are moments, like the second time I watched it, I definitely knew that it was Christian Bale. Like it was very obvious. But then you'd probably think that it was one of those kind of method acting things of like, oh, they're playing two people, because Hugh Jackman also played two people. Yeah. So that was quite an interesting thing to do, because it's like, oh, is it like a method thing? Like, oh, Christian Bale's also playing someone else, or is it real? Or, I mean, it could really fuck you up, that film.
And then the fact when he spoils the whole door trick in the film, is like, he's playing across the street. I'm like, yeah, he is actually playing across the street, because one of you is here and the other one is doing the show. And then he'll run back and do the show.
Ah.
Now, that might not be true, but, that could be a thing as well.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
But the thing about the foreshadowing that you were talking about, I mean, that was before. So when they're looking at Ching-Ling Su, right? I mean, at the time, the character portrayed by Christian Bale, it was just an assistant to Ricky Jay.
Yeah.
But what's very interesting is that when you know in the end what happens, then you realize that even at that time, when he was just an assistant, he was already preparing for that big act, So, there were still kind of, so it's really interesting how you can just interpret, this. So, what was the character thinking at the time? He was already preparing for this big act. He was already living this sort of double life. So that's right.
Yeah, like how long was he doing it? Like just all these two people just switching, like was it every day? Was it like because
even in his childhood, what was it like? I mean, it just gets you thinking, did they have like some sort of hidden life, like in
hiding the brother for the whole that's
God.
Wow.
Or in fact, did Michael Caine know the truth right from the start?
I was thinking that too when Borden took away Jessica, and then Michael Caine and Christian Bale kind of gave each other a look, and I was like, in that scene, I was like, does Michael Caine actually know that there are two of these people, or was it just like a goodbye? It could have been, or you could just read into it.
I also obviously like the fact, because you don't see that much. You'll see that in Black Panther, by the way, when we actually see Andy Serkis when we see him.
Oh, as an actor as opposed to a motion capture performer.
Playing the
Yeah, it was quite weird actually, wasn't it? Like, oh, he's not like Gollum, a Gollum creature.
Or Caesar from Planet of the Apes, which is really good as well.
The Pledge, The Turn, and The Prestige. Does that triple concept you have this concept, because I've never heard about that in all my magic stuff that I've read before the movie.
Neither have I.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
It's not an actual thing.
yeah. I don't know.
Could be, but I don't know.
When you write your so that good segue. Oh, I'm auto congratulating. Wow.
God.
We're not going to go into specifics because it's a show for laymen, but I know that you're also a magic creator. So is Paul Wilson. So do you have a specific creative process when you create your tricks? Do you have something specific in mind, or how? From zero to actually a finished product.
Well, I don't know how it works for Paul or even anybody else, but for me, I don't really consider myself a creator in the sense that I don't invent something new. I like to, just like you, I like to collect things and have build some sort of knowledge into a field. My personal field is mentalism, so kind of mind reading, psychological illusionism, if you want to call it that way. So I like to, I guess my starting point is more something for me. How could I take something that is already there but make it work for me, and then I started from that point onwards, and then I might think about the different methods or just a different presentation that might suit my style personally, and then obviously as a creator, then if you want to sell it for other magicians, then you also need to think about how can it work for other people, and that's it.
Cool. Cool. Do we have anything to add to the prestige?
Yeah, there was something I was thinking about. Obviously, for drama's sake, the whole rivalry between the two of them is because he killed his wife. Awful aspect. But I was trying to think, because I remember watching Our Magic and seeing the sense of community. I'm like, that isn't there in the magic community, right? This whole I've got to get against this other person sort of thing. Or nowadays at least. Or is it?
You have it a bit.
Is it?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Yeah. Well, as I was talking about earlier on, it's about ego, isn't it? Right. Oh. So there's definitely a strong sense of community, but there can also be some rivalry between performers. Yeah, okay. Especially within the same kind of genre.
Okay.
So I'm not necessarily talking for me, but I know some people who might have that as well.
Okay. Wow.
But speaking of this rivalry, what I quite liked about this film as well is the fact that, because you also mentioned the fact that both actors play two roles at the same time, and I really like the way those two characters, those two rivals are actually alike. They have the same. I mean, they both lost a loved one, a wife. They both have had a double life, and they both want to compete, to be the best magician ever. And it kind of reminded me of John Truby's Anatomy of a Story, a book on how to write a scenario. And he was saying that one of the things that he says in his book is, what makes a great story is when you have two rivals. They should be, you shouldn't have like a good guy and a bad guy. You should have just one guy and another person who is exactly the same, who's got the exact same goals, but who, just wants to go in a totally different direction. Mm. And I think that in this film, especially when you watch it again, the first time you kind of side along with the character portrayed by Christian Bale, and you might think that his character is kind of the good guy, whereas Hugh Jackman is the bad guy. But when you watch it again, you think, well, you start to understand his thought process. I mean, he lost a loved one, and also something that is really striking is the fact that Christian Bale never really expresses any sort of remorse for what he did. Mm. Right?
Complete sociopath.
Yeah, because he says, I can't remember what kind of knot I did. But as a spectator, you can see what happened in that scene, right? You can see that he changes the knot.
Oh, wait. Sorry to interrupt you, but actually, maybe that was Fallon who actually did the knot and not him.
Yes, but in that, yes, maybe it was. But then
Yeah.
at one point they must have talked or something. Because the only place where he kind of talks about this scene again is in his notebook when he says, "I really can't remember, which knot I made." But then later on in the film, you realize that actually the notebook was just like you mentioned early on was kind of fake. He wrote it knowing that Hugh Jackman would read it. So then it kind of makes you think as to what is true or not in what he wrote. But he never expressed any sort of remorse for maybe doing a mistake. Even if he couldn't remember, he could have said, "Well, maybe I made a mistake."
I think it's one of these red herrings that they use to try and confuse the audience for the twist at the end, because there's always going to be, especially in magic, you always try and guess what's going to happen. And I think it's a whole thing that maybe Christian Bale's character's got like 2 split personalities, like he's schizophrenic sort of thing. I think that's where that tries to play into. For me, I think I got that idea to begin with. But yeah, you're right. We don't know. Honestly, don't know. But then I know. Oof. Blowing my mind over here. I'm blowing my own mind.
Yeah, well, it's clearly we discussed dimensions in characters, and they all.
Sorry.
We discussed multiple times how good villains should have 3 dimensions, and it's just not 1 or 2. And then,
Oh my god.
What did you do?
I'm sorry. It's because I move around a lot with my hands. I'm sorry.
these characters clearly have 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I totally stole the thunder of that. Sorry. But yes, no, I agree with you completely.
But yeah, I think that's what I've got to say about Prestige. Yeah.
Oh, also, we talked about pseudonyms before. I liked how he didn't want to keep his name Angier because he didn't want to embarrass his family with his theatrical endeavors. That's the thing.
That's
also
interesting. I mean, actors have that too. Like, you don't, in quite a lot of cultures, being an actor is seen as weird or stupid or you'll never make it and all this kind of stuff. It's probably the same thing. It's less now, but it's still a big thing.
But do you also have this question, because as a magician and also musician, I have, I experience this quite a lot when, you meet someone for the first time and they ask you what you do and you say, "I'm a magician." And at first, it's always the same kind of reaction. It's like, "Oh yeah, that's really cool." But then it's like, okay, but apart from that, what do you really do?
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you mean by really do?
Yeah.
That's what I do.
I want to see my bank statement to see where my money comes from. Is this what you want, sort of thing? Yeah.
So do you have the same thing as, when you explain you're an actor? Do you have the same reactions from people?
You get
There's also like, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, you get the 3 standard questions of it. Have I seen you in anything? And then you answer that, and you'll say, "Oh, I've done this." It's like, "I haven't seen that." I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
So you must be failing.
Yeah.
There's definitely that look of, well, you can't be very good if you're not famous yet.
And then obviously, no, but what do you really do, sort of thing. So there's like a whole scale to it, yeah.
Well, there is that version that is very, very disrespectful, and I know that Anouk likes. I'm being sarcastic there. Like, I'm from London. Yeah, but where are you really from?
Yeah. Oh, I get that a lot, which is great. It's like, yeah. Where are you really? Really? You don't look like you're from London. What am I supposed to look like?
And then when you say you're from Glasgow, the reaction is, "Oh, that must be pretty rough then."
Yeah. It's like, yes, I carry knives with me.
God, how you survived. God, yeah.
Yeah, I've also got, I just moved to Glasgow. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, I was like, from Glasgow. Oh, it must be cold up there. I was like, yeah.
Freezing.
You must have like so many jackets on.
I didn't say I lost my mother. I just said I moved to Glasgow.
It's not that bad.
That was the same reaction. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. There's also, I definitely get, I used to do a lot of acting. Like, I really wanted to be an actor, but, I chose a real job. Like, okay, cool. It's like, yeah, I played Oliver in Oliver
Yeah.
Twist at school, and it's like,
yeah,
it's not the same thing. yeah.
God. Oh yeah.
That's not what I do.
It's like for musicians. It's like, oh yeah, I played recorder at school. Yeah, so did everyone. Everyone played recorder at school. Doesn't mean you were a musician, mate. Come on.
Man.
Apparently, there is a Indian movie called Doom 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
How is that spelled? DH.
Yeah.
As opposed from
DHOOM.
DOO.
It means bang.
It's inspired by the Prestige story.
Really?
Okay.
Yes.
Is it a Bollywood film or is it
Yeah.
just an
I think
Indian?
it is. Yeah. Kind of action Bollywood. Weird. But there's
Sounds great.
plenty of movies we won't be talking about, but we'll try to talk about The Illusionist and Now You See Me in the coming month, in this month, if we can find time to record that. But you also have, I don't know if you've ever seen the incredible Burt Wonderstone.
No, I haven't.
I still need to watch this one with, how's it called? Andy, we talked about him earlier. The mask guy is...
The mask.
The mask.
No,
guy.
Jim and Andy. What's the name of the
Jim
actor?
Carrey.
Ah, yes.
Oh, the mask
Oh,
guy.
the mask guy. I'm like, I was going to... Zorro?
Yeah, Jim Carrey playing a crazy version of David Blaine, kind of putting stuff in his whatever.
Oh, David Blake. Is he the guy in the glass box?
Yes.
I remember that.
And then people flying like food up with like little helicopters just to annoy him.
Yeah, he started the whole street magic trend. David Blaine, actually. Now he had after him Chris Angel, Dynamo. I went to a conference, Dynamo. I have a picture with Dynamo. Ooh.
I saw that yesterday. I was like, hey, Anouk, is that Yann and Dynamo together?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Cool to watch.
Anything else to add to the Prestige basket?
Prestige basket. No, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Oh yeah, that's.
Yeah, I'm good.
Should I do the rating then?
The rating. Yeah, the rating.
Okay. So here at the Good, the Bad, and the Just Plain Standard, we rate films on good, bad, and just plain standards categories. Just plain standard being that the film didn't really try and do anything, and you just, you were doing something else while watching it. So with that in mind, Yann, Anouk, and Francis, was the Prestige good, bad, or just plain standard? And we'll start with our guest as always.
Oh, thank you. Definitely good.
Yann?
Well, I was in the borderline, but I'll just put it straight in there, that no matter. Legendary.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I didn't even know you could do that. I thought it was just like good.
Yeah, we introduced... Yeah, I'm sorry, we introduced...
Oh, yeah. I got it. Yeah.
It's a new one that we've thought of.
Yeah,
You're cheating.
How does it reach legendary for you then, Yann?
because it just does.
Oh, fair enough then.
There you go. That's it.
Anouk?
You won't get any more from Mr. Mystery Man over there. But that's interesting that you put it in the legendary character, because now I'm like, because do you know what? The first time I watched this, it was good. But now that I've seen it a second time, there's so many levels and there's so much going on, and you can talk about it for hours. That legendary is yeah. I'm borderline. Good legendary.
I'm up there as well. For me, it's not legendary just because again, it's kind of bad for me to say this. I think the order of seeing Nolan films has kind of affected the way I see this. Just seeing how he's evolved as well. It's still a fantastic movie and it's a very high good, but to be fair, this is my first time. Maybe in the future it'll change for me, but for right now, it's a very high good for me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Good. I think so. Let me find the questionnaire again.
Oh, yeah.
In our interrogation.
Okay.
So when are we gonna get to have a look at your collection of stuff? Or is it just on display for?
Well, yeah, it was for a display, but we could as a separate segment. Whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So here at the Good, the Bad, and the Just Plain Standard, we introduced the Milk in a Wineglass questionnaire based on Marcel Proust, Bernard Pivot, and James Lipton. So, Francis, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word is Toblerone. Yes, I don't know. I just thought of it. I don't know where it comes from.
I'm guessing it's Swiss.
Yes.
What is your least favorite word?
My least favorite word. Sorry, can I have a moment to think about it?
Yes.
My least favorite word. My least favorite word is probably a liar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have to explain why, right?
No, you don't.
No, no.
If you don't want,
Okay.
you don't have.
Okay.
If you want, you can. But yeah. What inspires you creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Creatively, I mean, I like people who like to blend different things together, not just in magic or even if you just take music, for example. I don't just like one particular style. I like people who like to go beyond the limit and like to mix different things together. For example, we talked about David Bowie in this film. For me, he's definitely a great inspiration because he has had so many facets, this is something that would really inspire me to just discover many different things and to reinvent yourself every time. Like, for example, right now I'm a magician, but I started so about 10 years ago now. And that's something that, if 10 years ago someone told me that I would do this professionally, I would have never believed them. And so, yes, I like people who reinvent themselves and like to discover new things. For example, meeting new people, which is what I'm doing right now. Yeah, so that's it.
Awesome. And in terms of inspiration and creative, what makes you run as fast as possible in the other way? Because it was before what turns you off, but it was taken in some weird ways. So,
what turns me off?
yeah.
I think that what really turns me off is first of all ego. Okay, people who've got problems with ego, and also people who don't take things seriously. People who tell you that they can do something, but actually they can't. Or people who just, just delay everything in your work. I just like to work with people, not necessarily professionals, but, people who are really inspired to do something. And I think that nowadays it's very difficult to find those people, especially in this day and age of everything kind of virtual. You find a lot of people who say, "Yeah, I can do this, I can do that." I'm an actor. People saying, "Yeah, I'm an actor as well because I've played in a YouTube video, so I'm an actor right now." And so what really turns me off is people who just who are not very serious into what they're doing.
Great. What is your favorite curse word?
Wow, my favorite curse word. It's probably French. I would say enculé. Yeah.
Just like Paul Wilson.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I explained to our listeners what it really originally meant, the exact significance of the word. But yeah, just like Paul. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Very good.
And also there's a French word that for anyone who goes to France, you need to understand it's putain, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so you might hear that a lot. So I quite like that as well. It's amongst my top 2, top 1.
Awesome. What sound or noise do you like?
What sound? Since I come from the south of France, I like the sound of the sea, waves. Yes.
Nice.
So it's like very. It might sound a bit cliche or very romantic. I don't know. But yeah.
Walks on the beach.
Yes, yeah.
I changed mine to cicadas. So
All right,
it was something else, but that's home every time. So yeah.
And actually something else as well. I quite like the sound of playing cards, when you shuffle them. It's like, especially when you go to Blackpool, it's very interesting. When you take the train, and the closer you get to Blackpool, to the convention, all of a sudden you start to hear sounds like, this kind of shuffling noise, and you're like, there is one magician here. Okay, and then there's another one. Oh, there's another one here, and it's I quite like this sound. It's very very relaxing in a way. Maybe not for everyone, but yeah.
I will remake my YouTube video and fully add some sound effects of a shuffle to entice. What sound or noise do you dislike?
I really hate. Just like earlier on, we had some sort of fire. How do you call it?
Fire truck alarm sound.
Yeah.
Fire truck. Is that?
Fire engine.
Yeah, fire engine. Yes, I quite hate it, and ambulances as well. Yeah, a siren. Siren, exactly. Thank you. Sometimes, I kind of lose my English. It's on some days it's really weird. On some days I can just speak English all the time. It's great. Some days I just start to lose my English, and on some days I can't even speak either French or English. It's really weird. So yeah, but I find fire engines here very loud.
Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attend?
I've always been fascinated by lawyers, actually. I know it's a bit controversial maybe for some people, but I've always been fascinated by lawyers. It's about the way you can use words to depict a particular story or to defend someone. So I quite like that, because there's also a lot of that in I guess in acting, but also in magic as well. Words are very, very important because they structure, your reality. I mean, there's a framework that you're trying to create, as an actor or a magician. And I've always been fascinated by lawyers, because also I think it's something that I would not be able to do myself, but I would love to be able to do it.
We had earlier on this month, Molly, a friend who trained with us, and hers was barrister, and she gave this quote like, solicitors write the show and lawyers are performing it or something? Mm-hmm. And it's the whole acting aspect from lawyers, like the plaidoyer and stuff, yeah.
It's probably why there are so many court cases in films and theatre productions, because it is like a stage. Because you're trying to convince the jury in a certain way. So,
but then again, the world is a stage. Dun-dun.
And we all...
And all the men and women are merely players.
That's
I pride myself on knowing I know the lines after the famous Shakespeare quotes, just so I'm like, right, I can add on to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because you always get
to be or not to be.
It's another thing when we were talking in this episode about what people say when I'm an actor, and they'll always say like a famous line at you. I always pride myself to go, I know the next line after, just so it completely froze them. Like, oh God, yeah.
You're an actual actor.
Yeah, oh God.
What profession other than your own would you not like to attend?
I don't know how you call it. Prison guards,
Wardens?
Yeah. Wardens, yes, exactly. Yeah, I would not like to do this. Yeah, warden. Yeah.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I would like him to say, he would probably say, so you see, I exist, right? So, yeah.
This is good.
Surprise. Pick a card, any card.
That'd be good.
Yeah, but you're so all-knowing. That's the 4 of clubs. What? Whatever. If you were reincarnated as some other plant or animal, what would it be?
A cat, definitely. Yeah. cats are so zen, and they don't do anything the whole day, and they can just relax on the sofa, just go outside and catch a mouse. And yeah, I just love cats. I used to be a dog person, but now I'm more into cats. I really like it. And if I could reincarnate into an animal, definitely a cat.
They have the best lives.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, they have even more than one life. So
That's true as well.
They've got it all sorted.
Nine. Yeah. So we have now 2 bonus questions.
Okay.
I'll leave one to you guys.
Oh,
All right.
It comes from stuff that were discussed during the podcast. So the very first one is magician, alive or dead. Who you would say is a big inspiration to you right now in your magic?
Well, still Darren Brown. Yes. Yeah. I mean, he was. He's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, and still is. I mean, obviously, since then I've explored magic a little bit more. It took me a while to realize, what it is that I would like to do. I mean, is it card tricks? Is it coin tricks or stage illusionism? Or, so now I've kind of found a way I've kind of found my own direction. But obviously I've explored, many different things in magic. So you talked about Eugene Berger. Yes, very good inspiration. I really like the whole, again, storytelling aspect. And yes, I mean, I could talk, for hours about all the magicians who have been an inspiration, but Darren Brown is definitely the first one. Yeah.
Actually, Eugene Berger was an inspiration to Darren Brown also. So
Right. Yes.
Yeah, in his book. Yeah. That's circle.
Full circle.
So yeah, guys, out of everything that came out of this episode, do you want to ask anything to Francis? That's your turn for the second bonus question. Yeah, I didn't find one myself, so that's why I made mine.
Like, no pressure then.
No pressure.
Well,
I've got one.
I mean, it's all very interesting.
Could you work out how that card is in that bottle? Because I can't. I've tried so hard when Yann brings it out.
so for our audio listeners, right now
We'll
on
put a
display,
photo- yeah, we'll put a photo up, right.
is the Anything is Possible by Jamie D. Grant. So that's the deck of cards stuck, like sealed and complete inside the milk bottle.
Yes, and I have no idea actually how it works. And actually, to bounce back on this question, so because I really don't know how this can work. I mean, I might have an idea, but I'm not entirely sure. But there are still a lot of things in magic that I don't know. Oh, you can just put it back, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Or you're like
No,
OCD and you want stuff in exactly in the same place.
No, it's because of your name. No, sorry. But
All right, okay,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. No, it's fine.
I thought maybe everything was like arranged alphabetically or something. It's like,
I could have. I have.
Don't move it.
I have some OCDs, but not this one.
so there are still some things that I don't understand in magic. I mean, obviously, it's not as if I could understand everything. I don't have like an encyclopedic knowledge of magic, but I also willingly choose to not know everything. There are some areas of magic that I just like to watch, like for example, bird magic and doves. I mean, I have an idea of what happens, but I still don't. I still want to be fooled and to look at it like from your point of view, and to look at it like it's real magic. Because as a magician, that's what you tend to lose after a while. You look at the magic trick and you just look at it from a technical aspect, and that's also why I've worked with Mark over the past few months, because I really wanted to work on a show with someone who is not going to look at my act in terms of, oh yeah, you've got this effect, and yeah, because by the way, magicians don't call tricks a trick, we call it an effect. So so I didn't want to have someone who say, yeah, you could use this effect or that one. I would rather work with an actor who could say, it would be better if from the point of view of the scenario, if you did that, or and so yeah.
Yeah, that's extremely true. You tend, as you know, like for acting, if you get the secrets of acting, so you may lose some. Or if you watch making of in movies, the special effects and everything. There are the illusions, big boxes and with the motorbikes, and that's the thing that I never go to into trying to see how it works, because I tried. That's also why I love storytelling so much, because that's also why I like storytelling so much, because in magic, because you're focusing on, you're listening to a story, you're watching a story, you're not really focused on how it just transformed for story purposes. Now it's no longer the kings, it's just guards or some random weird things that just cheap tricks. And when everything that Dominique Duvivier does, we have, so in the US they have the Magic Castle we talked about a few times, and not exactly the equivalent, but an old place where you can see magic in France is called Le Double Fond. And Dominique Duvivier is fascinated. He started magic when he watched a Fritz Lang's movie. So it was inspired by movies, by music. So everything he does...
One of my favorite films. I love it.
Everything he does is story-driven. And there is sometimes some stuff that could sound and look like exposure, as Madi said, for Penn and Teller. But it's story-driven, and it's, as long as there is a story, even if the tricks are... I mean, I fall in love with stories every time. So even if I know how it works, I put the behind the scenes in the corner of my mind, and I just enjoy the whole thing.
So it's very interesting. So how about you guys? So as actors, when you watch a film, how much does it affect your, the way that you watch a film?
Yeah.
Do you watch it in terms of acting techniques or a scenario, or can you just take a step backwards?
It's even more of a task for a film. And it makes a film even better when it does make you forget that you have these skills and you know how it works. And especially like from learning how to do it more and more, you see it. So it's a curse and a blessing, because when the film does it well, you realize, wow, this is really good because I wasn't thinking that, or the play was really good and you're not thinking about it at all. But it does affect you a lot of the time. If somebody makes like a bad decision, or like you can see something failing, and like, okay, I can see this. So
Yeah.
it's a blessing and a curse, I think. Yeah.
I totally agree. I think as well, like if something's awful, you can't get it out of your head. Whereas if you can take a step back, or you don't understand these things, then you can kind of just forget about it. And I feel like that can be quite sad, because then you lose the whole film just because one thing is annoying you. And like an accent can really bug me, or if something's not consistent, or if there's like a continuity error or something like that, that can really bug an actor, I think.
It gets you out of the reverie, for anyone anyway.
Oh yeah. And we obviously, because we've been on stage or in front of the camera, or even behind the camera, you know how these things work. So sometimes it's amazing, and actually, like I love my TV shows. Like when my TV series, I get so like involved with like Desperate Housewives and all these like American like trashy things. But it's really interesting because I watch it in a completely different way than to people. Like they watch it like after like a long day, and it's just like, oh, just mind dead mind. What's it called?
Brain
blank.
dead.
Yeah,
Brain dead.
Brain dead. Thank you. But like I watch it as like little things, like how much someone will turn towards the camera, and how the camera works, and deep threes, and all these kind of theoretical, technical things. Like they're everywhere, and it's actually a really good way of learning your craft. Like to watch everything, like even the bad stuff, and even like. And you can really enjoy it. It's one of the reasons why I moved to Glasgow and went to Acting Coach Scotland, because you had 6 months of technical, but then you also went out into the world and did like 3 weeks of the Fringe, and you were in front of an audience, and you will never be able to learn something better than doing it. Like there's just no way. So that was really important for me to like to actually be on stage is like a good way of doing it. So yeah, it's a curse and a blessing. Yeah.
I don't think, because the main thing we have is the audio, and the video will come way later. So, and I won't, because it was not. I won't ask you to do a trick for listeners because it would be a nightmare to have for the audio. So I'll just explain. I don't think. Wait 1 second with your ears. I don't know if the plugging time. Did I say it before? Yeah, France. Yeah. Okay, so it's plugging time. France,
Scotland,
England.
Right. Okay.
Oh
Sorry.
no, let's do it
am I
again.
supposed to
No,
do?
I'll say it again. It's okay. Yeah. So I'll do plug-in time. France, Scotland, England, and France.
Okay.
And then I'll be a bit of singing, and then I'll get to what you're doing right now. The
Okay.
plugging segment.
All right. Okay.
It's all right.
It's all right. No worries.
It's plugging time. France,
Scotland,
England.
France.
go podcast rangers, mighty plugging podcast rangers, go podcast rangers, mighty podcast rangers. So
we're keeping
Francis, what in which productions, or what are the shows where our listeners can see you and discover your work right now?
So right now, in terms of magic and mentalism, my show is kind of under wraps just now. It was featured at the Edinburgh Horror Festival last year. Still kind of working on it, but hopefully it will, I will have an official launch sometime soon. But you can just find me on Facebook. It's at Maximiliano mentalist, but with an E, okay? Or maxmentalism.com, where you'll find all the information when the time comes. But also in terms of music, so Sonic Winter is going to release a single on the 15th of February called Blank. And so I'm quite excited about this release. So you will find us, obviously, since it's a virtual band, we're pretty much everywhere, like YouTube, Facebook, SoundCloud. So just search for Sonic Winter and you'll find us.
Awesome. I just added yesterday on our YouTube account playlists for each guest that we had, and everything that they have on YouTube, I put that in the playlist. So I'll make sure to make one for you right away when it's released. I think we are good on.
I think we're good. Yeah.
Thank you again for being with us. It was a pleasure to see you again.
Well, thank you for inviting me. That's great.
Yeah,
thank you.
thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
So we were
Adam,
Anouk.
Yann and
Francis.
bye-bye.
Bye.
bye.
Bye.